and welcome to your Week 2 recap show. He's James the Thrusting Moynihan. I'm Ross Berge. We're excited to be back on the air after some lengthy contract negotiations.
Yeah, Clear Channel's a real bitch.
Yeah, that sucked. But we're back.
We got a quick recap of the season thus far, and we start off in the Happy Endings division as Ross Bergelicious sits atop the division and has the lone undefeated record in that division going into Week 3. Bergelicious has put up 2 monster weeks, and he leads the league in points early in the season. His team has come out of the gate with huge numbers from 2 unlikely studs in Matty Ice and Vernon Davis. We'll have to see if they can continue that.
Yes, sir, and I got Ryan Matthews coming back this week.
True.
All right, next up in the Hard Times division, we have the A-Town Rat Tails, 2-0. Jamie's won 2 very close games by an average of 5 points. You took down Jed week 1 by 6 points, and then Snoots by 4 points. Huge game last week from Danny Amendola, which is a bright spot for your team. However, he's actually beating Jamal Charles by 12 points per game.
Yeah, so not good for my second-round pick.
Yeah.
Second place in the Happy Endings division, I'm sorry, is Doug lied about his vasectomy. As always, Chooch is off to a nice start as he begins with a 218 total points, though he's all but assured to screw it up somehow in the end. He's gotten off to 2 very good games with Frank Gore, who's he's selected with the 36th overall pick. But unfortunately, that 8th selection, CJ Okoye, is averaging just 1.1 yards per carry through the first 2 weeks. Luckily for Chuck, he's picked up CJ's handcuff, Javon Ringer, so he should be in good shape. Wait, that's actually not true. I took him this week.
All right, back to the Hard Times division. Grimsley Bears are 2-0. He defeated Jake last week barely, but then rebounded and killed Brendan week 2 by 25 points. He actually lucked out big time when Fred Jackson went down. CJ Spiller has now become Grim's best player suddenly. Put up 30 last week, should be very productive while Jackson's out. However, Grim did lose Aaron Hernandez for probably a few weeks and now has Brandon Myers in his tight end position.
Who the hell is Brandon Myers? That's too bad.
Not going to be good.
We have the Thompson takeover at 1-1. The perennial contenders appear to have given themselves the opportunity to be in the mix again this year. JK's team has scored over 100 points in each of the first 2 weeks, despite losing first-round selection Matt Forte. The takeover has been taking advantage of this season's new rule changes as he has implemented a 2 tight end set with both, in Forte's absence. So that's good. Big changes. Gronk and Pettigrew. That's exactly right.
And third place in Hard Times division is Retzelmania at 1-1. Snoots has defeated John and then lost to Jamie to start 1-1. But as usual, he's put up big numbers and is actually leading the Hard Times division in points. Snoots' running backs have been carrying his team. Reggie Bush, Arian Foster, Darren Sproles leading the way. He has had some trouble with his QBs so far. He cut Jay Cutler and is now relying on Andy Dalton.
Yeah, very interesting move there.
Yeah.
We don't drink, we Gronk beers. An early season trade for Robert Griffin III could come back to be the absolute steal of the season. Griffin actually currently leads the league in points, and BMAC appears to have a very formidable team this year, despite actually accruing -3 points from his defenses in the first 2 weeks, a very rare statistic.
He's actually still starting Raiders defense this week, too.
Go for it.
All right, 4th place in the Hard Times division, Masturbation, who lost to Grim week 1 and then won a close one against Jed. Jake actually made a pretty good trade. Acquiring Beanie Wells and Martellus Bennett worked out pretty well so far. Bennett actually scored a touchdown in each of the first 3 games, including last night. Stafford, though, starting out slow, just 12 points a game. He's going to have to turn around here for Jake to be successful.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. The Bad Blue Boys, our reigning champ, has question marks all over his roster. Peyton Manning looked like the Peyton Manning of 2005 in Week 1, and then it looked like he let his father Archie toss the pigskin around a little bit in the first 3 series of his Week 2 matchup against the Falcons. Michael Turner was arrested for a DUI, and he seems to have about as much burst in his first step as Ricky Snoots does. The Daily Show missed his 2nd game of the season in Week 3. Calvin Johnson and Adrian Peterson continue to deal with injury issues. All sorts of question marks for our reigning champ.
Indeed. All right, back to Hard Times. 5th place is Fighting Frog Swamps, also at 1-1. Brendan had a huge Week 1 performance, putting up 147 points, easily defeating the Flying Hawaiians, who are 0-2. but then he scored half of his first week performance by only putting up 72 points. I think that's probably the last time he starts Jake Locker. His top scorer so far this year, do you know who that's been? It's quite a surprise.
I have no idea.
Reggie Wayne.
Oh my!
Brendan's top scorer so far this year.
Good draft. Good draft. Kindergarten Cop at 1-1. Honestly, Ross, I am confused how a roster could be this poor at this time of the season. First round pick Tom Brady is currently ranked 16th among quarterbacks, and his second round pick Larry Fitzgerald ranks 73rd among wide receivers.
Yep.
73rd.
That's pretty bad.
Andy is looking to get some Grim-like luck as he has stashed away 4 running backs on his bench. And actually, it's 5 if you count Mark Ingram, who he's actually got in his starting lineup.
Yeah. All right, getting into the overs now. The Pocono Pawners 0-2. Jed has lost his first 2 games. Actually, been really close games to Jamie and Jake. But another rough start to the season for Jed, who last year dropped 5 out of his first 6 games. Ended up tying for the worst record in the league last year. He desperately needs a win this week, but it's not going to be easy.
Definitely not. The Halloween heads sit at 0-2. Really, the more things change, the more they stay the same. John sits in dead last in the Happy Endings division, despite getting that first overall pick in the draft. John has scored nearly identical points in back-to-back weeks. He's had up and down weeks for virtually everyone on his roster other than Mr. Consistency, kicker Justin Tucker.
He's a good kicker.
Arguably the most consistent player on that squad.
And that brings us to last place. The Honolulu Flying Hawaiians, 0-2. Going back to last year, Jamie, Rag has now lost 7 straight games and a remarkable 10 out of his last 11 games. In fact, he hasn't won since last November, which is 10 months. It's almost a year since he had a win. Rag, really?
This could be the week. This could be the week. He's off to a good start. All right, so we're going to get into some of our Week 3 matchups, just touch on these. We're obviously in the midst of it as we just had the Thursday night games, but we want to give a little bit of an overview for this week. Ross, you want to start us off?
I will. Doug lied about his vasectomy 1-1 versus the Thompson takeover, also 1-1. I expect a low-scoring game here with Matt Forte out. JK is going to be struggling at his running back positions, but Peyton Hillis and Cedric Benson, they're only averaging 6 and 7 points respectively. But I do expect a big game from Gronk. I think Fred Gore has an equally big game for Chooch, though. I take Chooch in this one.
Old Freddie Gore, one of my favorite players.
Oh, yeah.
Kindergarten Cop versus the Halloween Heads. These are 2 bottom feeders within their division. I think this one could come down to arguably the worst flex matchup of the season. It's between Kevin Ogletree and Nate Burleson. How these guys are in starting lineups at this point, I have no idea. I do like Dez Bryant against the 32nd ranked Buck defense. I picked John in this one.
All right. Honolulu Flying Hawaiians 0-2 versus A-Town Rat Tails 2-0. The Hawaiians really don't impress me. We've already highlighted his struggles so far, but before last night I probably would have taken you, Jamie, but with Andre Brown's 26 points on Thursday Night Football, I'm actually going to take Rag.
Yeah, we got a lot to overcome in the next couple days here. WrestleMania versus Masturbation. This is a big divisional matchup here as Snoots appears to have placed Wesley Welker back into the starting lineup for this one.
Yep.
Snoots has 3 of the top 7 running backs in the league at this point, which is an insane statistic, and he appears to be a force throughout the season yet again. I got to go with WrestleMania here.
All right, next up we got Pocono Pawners 0-2 versus Grimsley Bears 2-0. Again, we have the hindsight looking at Thursday night's game. Jed had 2 guys in there, Cam Newton and Victor Cruz. Very pedestrian performances. I think Grim easily goes 3-0.
Yeah, I think I gotta agree there. Bergylicious goes against We Don't Drink, We Gronk Beers. I really hope he changes that name. Ross looks to remain undefeated as he faces BMAC in Week 3. Ross elected to start Brandon LaFell in his flex spot over Donald Brown, which was an interesting choice. That could come back to hurt you a little bit. Tough matchups this week for both Darren McFadden and for Stephen Ridley, but I love RG3 going up against a Cincy defense that's given up over 320 yards in both games so far this season. I think it's macking an upset.
All right, and last matchup here, Bad Blue Boys 1-1 versus Fighting Frog Swamps. You've already discussed how Albert's team is suddenly in shambles after a big Week 1 performance. Manning and Peterson struggled. Turner got a DUI. And now Jonathan Stewart sat out last night. Now has to put Robert Meacham back in his flex spot, who got him how many points last week? 0.
A big old goose egg.
And with Big Ben back in the lineup, I'm taking Fighting Frog Swamps to win this one and improve to 2-1.
The 2 divisional winners from last year battling it
That's
out.
true. That's a good matchup. All right, guys. Well, there you have it. Week 2 recap show. It's good to be back. Thanks to Honey Brown, our endorser.
God bless you, honey. Brown.
God bless you guys.